Glitchy effect. Hello, what's up? Gleb Alexandrov here. Welcome to yet another very exciting tutorial. In this one, we're gonna be having a look at how to create this type of glitchy effect. I'll try to show two different methods of approaching this task of corrupting images, image sequences and animations coming from Blender in our case, but actually this very technique can be used to glitch any kind of image sequence. So first I'm gonna render a short random sequence out of Blender to use it for glitching. Like really just a bunch of frames, nothing too serious really. I'm gonna use the auto keying mode in which we don't have to manually place keyframes. What we can do is just move the camera, for example, and the keyframe will be placed automatically. I'm gonna move it like this by pressing the G key and holding Shift to move it ever so slightly. So I'm playing the animation and moving the camera back and forth, and bam, we created a bunch of keyframes. I think we can safely delete the keyframes outside the main sort of animation. So X to delete those, and the frame 45 will be the end of the timeline. So let's set it. So 45 is where the animation will end, and it will start at, I think, at about 10. So I'm inputting 10 in the start field. And we should get something like that, a looping, pulsing animation. And to make it slightly more dramatic, I will add a text because everything is better with the title in it. It's something that Andrew Kramer has discovered, and we use this knowledge ever since. Alright, we have this one keyframe that I accidentally created. Let's disable the auto keying. Tab to enter the edit mode for the text. I'm gonna input glitch, because why not? And I will position it a little bit closer to the camera to create separation in layers in depth to make the parallax effect slightly more obvious. And I will pull the focus to make sure that the text is in perfect focus, because initially it was positioned closer to the cube, the focal point. Of course, we can disable depth of field, but I think it looks better with it in place, so I'll just increase the f-stop. The higher is the f-stop value, the less shallow is the depth of field, and that's what we need. The last thing before actually glitching the footage is to assign a new material to the title and make it emissive. By the way, starting from Blender 2.91, the principled BSDF shader has the emission strength input, not only the emission color input. Let's just crank up the strength a little bit to make sure it punches through the filmic color management and stays bright. So strength 55. And the animation looks nice to me. We have the parallax effect going and the various levels of depth. Now we just have to define the output. Usually I try to use lossless formats like OpenEXR or PNG if you want to go 8-bit. But for this one we can actually use JPEG because we are gonna glitch our footage anyway. And JPEG is a lossy format. It applies compression, obviously, to everything. So it will be a corrupted icing on the cake of the glitch that we're gonna bake. God damn it. And before actually rendering it out, I think we can play with the frame rate. Right now it's set to 24 FPS, but what if we want to play with the lower frame per second value to achieve a stuttering frame skip effect? We can use the step parameter. The step value of 5 means that 4 frames will be skipped and each 5th frame will be rendered out. So I'm gonna render animation. Now we can go ahead and preview our animation. Looks neat to me. I think it will serve as a great source for delicious glitches. Alright, so we have the source material for Datamotion ready, and that means that we can proceed to the actual glitch technique. We will use free online tools for doing that, and I think that's an impeccable technique to learn, so keep watching. And now onto the glitchy part of the tutorial. Let's open the browser, any kind of browser, go photomosh.com and load our file. It can accept MP4 animations, but I couldn't make it work. And anyway, we'd better use images in this one. So I'm dragging and dropping the first frame, and we can just press Mosh and trust the random number generator to give us a nice set of glitch parameters on the right. So especially if you have spent some points in luck on the character generation, it may actually give you some nice results. But what I'm gonna do instead is untick all the boxes and set it up manually. First of all, we can go ahead and enable the RGB shift. It's like a chromatic aberration, the colorful fringing on the edges of everything, and then Insta filter to give it some extra stupid color. The worse, the better, you know. And lastly, let's enable the jitter. And yay, we're pretty much good to go. Now we can try exporting the glitchy result. There's a button called save right here. And let's go ahead and save the first processed frame of our animation. Of course, we can try exporting the entire MP4, but the resolution will be slightly lower in the end. And for the finer control, I'm gonna export it frame by frame. Even though the animation looks nice, the frame-by-frame approach is a lot more nerdy. It makes me happy, so I'm gonna drag and drop the second frame of the animation into this website and save it. And I'll do the same for each frame of the animation. We have like 8 or 9 frames. It won't take long to do it. And once we're finished with this step, we can create a special folder for the glitched output and copy-paste all the files in there. I will also skim through them and rename them in a sequence like this, starting with 01 and ending with 08. Here's the result. I think it looks digitalicious, and we just have to turn it into animation. I mean, we have to pack it into the video container. So I'll open Blender, go New Video Editing in the File menu. First of all, I'm gonna adjust the user interface a little bit by expanding the timeline. And now we're gonna go over to the Add menu, add image sequence, not movie, but image sequence, that's important. And navigate to the folder with the glitched frames, A to select all frames, and hit Add Image Strip. So here we have the image sequence placed on the timeline, but if we hit play, it takes like 1/3 of a second to play, so we need to adjust the frames per second. So set the frame rate to custom, FPS to 3 or maybe slightly higher. It depends on how stuttery you would like it to look. 3 frames per second is pretty much stop motion. So I think I will settle on 5 or 6 frames per second, something like that. And the end frame should be set accordingly. On the second thought, I should have probably duplicated the animation a couple of times to make the overall length of the video longer. And that's precisely what I'll do in the next part of the tutorial. But for now, I set the end frame at 9 and no regrets. I will just call it glitch art, as usually if you don't know what you're doing, call it art. And then submit it to the gallery. Okay, for the output, I will select FFmpeg video to make sure it results in a nice MP4 video for distribution. So for the container, I'm choosing MPEG-4. The video codec at its default state. The quality actually can be set to lowest, because ironically the crazier is the compression in this particular case, not as a rule of thumb, but here with when working with glitches. The more intricate and broken will be the final look, and that's probably what we're aiming for if we are working in this style. So it kind of makes sense from this twisted perspective to corrupt it even more via compression. Glitchy effect. And here's the second method of glitching things using strange free online tools. I love this one. You can find the link in the description. First of all, I'm going to disable this Resize Big Images checkbox. Otherwise, the tool will eat our resolution for breakfast. And I will start with the frame number 1 again. And it's important to not forget to change frames after each iteration. So we have a bunch of controls here: the amount of glitchiness, the random seed, the iterations, the quality of the JPEG corruption. The lower the quality, the funkier is the result, I should say. Just like in the previous method, we can rely on the inherent chaotic nature of the universe and press the randomize button a few times in hope that we get something neat. And it's totally doable. It should be doable. Try it out. Not like the other buttons are very predictable. The process of data moshing or data corruption is sometimes the process of discovering unpredictable but visually striking things via randomly tweaking the sliders. That's how things work. So here I'm processing the second frame of the animation, and when I'm satisfied with what I see on screen, just saving the image. Whoa, this one looks nice right out of the box, so I'm saving it out, tweaking the seed a little bit. You get the point. Just don't forget to swap the frames after each has been processed. So ideally, the parallax of our initial animation, the movement of the 3D layers that shows the depth, should still be visible. It should still punch through for a little bit of extra oomph. And once again, to pack it into the MP4 file, import the image sequence, the image strip in Blender, set the frame rates to your liking. Something like 5 or 6 sounds fine with me, and for 24 frames per second, or to God forbid 60 frames per second, it's too much hassle to generate the processed outputs, so usually I stick to the lower frame rates, and here I duplicated the animation on the timeline by pressing Shift D a couple of times in order to have a longer video in the end, to make it more shareable, I guess. And here's our final result. It looks awesome. We can do so much more with it. Here are a couple of demos for you. So that's pretty much it. We finished creating the glitchy effect. It hopefully looks neat, but if it's not, just give it one more try, because the processes like that involve high degree of randomness. Sometimes it's not very obvious how to nail specific settings because of the chaotic nature of that process, but eventually if you persist and if you're interested in this kind of a weird style that involves breaking the files to create this peculiar looking artifacts, eventually it will be alright. Drink more coffee and subscribe to our new Creative Shrimp channel. In addition to this one, I believe, feel free to click on this thingy and on the link. It will teleport you right to the new channel where we're gonna be posting various tutorials, behind the scenes, making ofs from the extended team Creative Shrimp. That was Gleb Alexandrov. Stay safe, stay healthy, and eventually we will change the world. Of computer graphics.